Active Directory, a technology that at least 93% of companies are relying on every day in their internal networks. Basically, Active Directory is the tech that allows a company to efficiently manage the permissions of thousands of employees and other internal resources such as file servers, printers, etc. So it goes without saying this is an extremely lucrative target for attackers, and once the bad guys have successfully infiltrated the company, taken control of their Active Directory environment, they will want to establish what we call persistence, meaning that they're going to dig their claws in the environment to make sure they can maintain that access over a long period of time. And there are many ways that hackers do this, but in this video, I want to show you some cutting-edge Kerberos techniques that they're using to be very sneaky and stealthy in doing this. So if you've explored some Active Directory attacks, you might be familiar with golden ticket attack for persistence or even the silver ticket attack. In this one, we're going to look into some variants, some newer ones that have come out, the diamond ticket and sapphire ticket attacks. So let's look at the cyber attack lifecycle. So in the lifecycle, this would sit in the maintain presence part. We assume that we already did some recon, got initial foothold into the environment, maybe escalated some privileges, did some more recon, move laterally. Now we want to sink our claws, sink our hooks into this Active Directory environment. So this is the basic Kerberos authentication process if you're not familiar with it. There's a lot of steps to it. I'll kind of walk through real quick here. You want to request the TGT from the KDC, which is the Key Distribution Center, which is by default it's going to be on that Windows domain controller, which is the crown jewels of an Active Directory environment. Basically, request the TGT, which you will use your password with that, or essentially you will generate a ticket that will be derived from the user password, and it will verify that it's you, and it will essentially send you back the TGT with the session key. You'll use that to request the TGS, the ticket granting service, and then it will respond with the ticket granting service that you'll use to then authenticate to some resource in the AD environment. And so if we look at the golden ticket attacks, essentially you're not doing this first part here. We are forging the TGT, so we can kind of skip this because we've compromised the KRB TGT, which is the account that will generate these tickets. So essentially, when you're looking for this, as the defense, you can monitor for the TGS requests that have no corresponding TGT. There's a lot of ways to detect golden ticket attacks. We can kind of go into some of them, but it'll be pretty apparent when we get into the demo as well. And this is essentially, we can look for some useful event IDs right here, especially this one. Kerberos service ticket was requested, and there'll be a lot of legitimate instances of these events in a real production environment. So the defense really has to dig in kind of deep to find this, but there's a lot of tools out there that are pretty well tuned to detecting golden ticket attacks nowadays. The silver ticket attack is a little bit more stealthy. We're actually cutting out both of these, and we're just requesting a resource with the silver ticket and then receiving that. So we're going to want to target typically a service account, something with a spin set for this one. And these are more difficult to detect than golden ticket attacks, but not the stealthiest overall, as we'll see. But the defense can look for certain anomalies like these ones here, mismatches, and especially this one's pretty big here, weaker encryption types being requested like RC4. Attackers love to request RC4 because it's pretty easily crackable if the user has a weak password set on the account. So it's much easier to crack RC4 versus AES 128 or 256. But here's the thing, in a legit domain environment, it's pretty weird if a service will request an RC4 ticket. So a lot of times you can tune your detection to that. And here's some useful event IDs to look out for to detect the silver ticket attacks. And the diamond ticket attack, what's interesting about it is it actually goes through the full Kerberos authentication process. None of the steps are skipped. And if I dive into a really good blog post here by TrustedSec, which, Andrew Schwartz and Charlie Clark, these are the guys that actually pioneered this. They created this diamond ticket attack. We can see with this is it's based on a Black Hat talk way back from 2015 where they were doing something similar but a little bit different. But essentially that gave them the idea to come up with this attack here. Essentially what they're doing with the diamond ticket attack is instead of forging a TGT, they are requesting a legitimate TGT using the fact that they have the encryption key of KRB TGT. They're using that encryption key to decrypt the TGT, modify the pack, modify the TGT, re-encrypt it, and send it on its way. So the nice thing about that is it's all legitimate. It's a legitimate ticket, right? Because you went through the whole process requesting the TGT and everything, and now you're just modifying the values and re-encrypting it. So because of that, from an OPSEC perspective, this is way more stealthy than a golden or even silver ticket attack. So as you can see here, And the nice thing as well is the timestamps and everything are already going to be valid and legit because you requested the legitimate ticket in the first place. You just modified it, you tampered with it after the fact. So this is a lot more difficult to detect. And the Sapphire ticket attack that we'll see in a little bit later, that's even more stealthy than this, if you can imagine. So let's dive into, back to the slides here and go into some diamond ticket attacks and then into the Sapphire ticket attacks. This is the lab that I have set up here, basic setup. I have a domain, forest and domain called uaacademy.local, and that has 2 servers in it. So an SVC01, which is just some kind of server in the domain environment. And then we have the domain controller, which is DC01. And I have a couple attack boxes here. We're not really going to use that in this demo, but I do have this in the environment as well. So we are going to assume, like I said, from the cyber attack lifecycle that we've already compromised a user account. We've compromised this server, SVC01. We have local admin on that server, and we have access to a domain user. So that is the kind of starting point that we're going to go off of. Let's say we actually fully compromise the domain in the sense of maybe we have like a domain admin, domain user, and a local admin here. So we have pretty well owned this environment. Now we want to sync our hooks into the environment. So if you're enjoying this pen testing and red teaming stuff so far, or even if you're a complete beginner watching this video and you feel like some of it's going over your head, but you want to be able to follow along in the future and get to that level, then you definitely want to distill down the amount of time it's going to take you any way possible, right? Because there's a million different paths that you could branch down, different things you can learn. But what we can do is really distill it down to what do you absolutely need to learn to land your first job as a pen tester. So go ahead and send me a DM with the word YouTube to my Instagram at Elevate Cyber, and you can check the link in the description below for my Instagram as well. And let's come up with a game plan for you to really streamline your process to get into this field in a fraction of the time that it's going to take everyone else. So let's dive into some of the demo here. We're going to perform this diamond ticket attack, and I've logged into SVC01 as an admin user. So remember, we have admin, we've compromised, we've owned this environment already, and we're trying to establish persistence in this domain environment. So now that I'm logged in here, the first thing that I can do is we need a little bit of info on this domain if we don't have it already. So we want to find out the SID, or the security identifier, for this domain environment. So the best way to do that is we can open PowerShell, and we actually have full antivirus running on here. I can show you guys that. Open run, and I'll do Windows Defender. And you'll be able to see here that Defender is enabled. Now, one thing that I did is I have created an exception in the C public tools folder where I put some tools on the box. So this is something you could do in a legit engagement or something like that, where you can add like an exclusion where you want to put your tools. Like if you've compromised the machine, something you could do, right? So that's something that I did here just to make things a little bit easier, a little bit simpler for us. So one thing that I'm going to do here is I'm going to import a couple of Active Directory PowerShell modules. And the reason that I'm going with this is whenever you can get away with it, it's better to use Active Directory PowerShell over something like maybe PowerView, because this is a legitimate Microsoft tool. So you can do your enumeration through it. It's not going to get blocked by AMZ. It's not going to get blocked by antivirus because it's a legitimate Microsoft tool, and we're using it to gather some information that's going to aid us in further attacks. So I'm going to run the get 80 domain and filter for the domain SID. And this value here is what I'm going to use in the diamond ticket attack. Now, the other thing that I need is the KRB TGT hash. We're going to need to spawn an elevated command prompt in order to get that. So go to command prompt. We're going to run this as administrator, which we have the rights to do. The command that I'm going to go with to run this is I'm going to use a tool called Better Safety Cats. And I kind of modified this a little bit to bypass antivirus. I basically did some basic static, avoiding some static detections. If you're interested, let me know if you want to see a video in the future on some antivirus bypass techniques and things like that, something I could put together. But essentially, I have this tools folder on the system where I added my exclusion, and I'm going to be running Better Safety Cats, which is a variant of Mimikatz. It's a little bit more stealthy, but out of the box, it will still get flagged by Windows Defender. So I had to make a few modifications to it, like I said. And essentially, we're going to use the Kerberos module, Kerberos Golden, even though it's called Kerberos Golden, what we're using it for, and oops, I actually copied the wrong command here. That one would be the golden ticket attack. What I meant to copy was this one here. Much simpler command. We're going to use LSA dump with DC sync. So we're going to do a DC sync. So if you are a domain administrator, or if for some weird reason you just have the replication rights, you will be able to do a DC sync, which will allow you to retrieve the password hashes for any account on the domain. The one that we want it for is the KRB TGT account, the KDC, right? So we'll run this, and this should give us some hashes for the KRB TGT account. We're going to make note of both the AES key and the NTLM hash as well. So there's two hashes that we want: the AES hash, this one here, and we'll also save this one up here. So once we have those, we could perform that golden ticket attack, as you saw, if we wanted to, but we're going to go a little bit deeper. We're going to go with the diamond ticket attack, which is an even better one. And let me just clear the screen here. So this is what you can go with for the diamond ticket attack. So what we're going to do is we're going to run Rubius, which is another third-party tool. And they actually added that diamond module, like I said, with that pull request that TrustedSec added. And then you specify KRB key. This is where you'll add your AES 256 key for the KRB TGT. The user. So I'm using my my user account here that we've pretend we've owned, we've compromised, and the password for that account. And then the encryption type, which we will specify as AES. And then we can say what we want to generate a ticket for. So we'll generate a ticket for the administrator, and on this domain, uaacademy.local, and this is the domain controller. Ticket user ID is 500 for admin, and groups 512 for the admin group. And we'll do a create net only and spawn the cmd.exe. And we'll do a pass the ticket attack. This is one way you can do it. Now, you might be wondering, well, what do I do if I don't have the password to any account on the domain? Like maybe you do some kind of exploit that gets you code execution as like system or like the basically system on the domain controller or something like that, and you're trying to do this attack and you don't have any actual valid credentials in plain text like this, right? Well, not all is lost. There's actually another variation on this command that you can use, which is this one right here. You can use this with /tgt delegate, and then you can specify the encryption type as AES, and then you can pass in, all these other, the same things that we saw before. So you have a couple options of how you want to run this. I'll just go ahead and run this like this. And if it works, you might spawn the shell and it failed, but if it works, you'll see something like this here where you'll have the base64 ticket. And just to confirm that, what you can run is klist, and you should see something like this here. Administrator, KRB, TGT. Now you have essentially you essentially have that ticket there that you can use to authenticate to sensitive resources in the domain environment. So for example, if I wanted to authenticate through CIFS to the domain controller, I'm able to do that now. So I can say domain controller, which is DC01 UA-academy.local on the C drive, and you see I'm able to access that. So we have successfully performed the diamond ticket attack. So now if we jump into sapphire tickets, what we can see here is this article here from Hacker Recipes. And essentially what they're talking about here is it's similar to the diamond tickets in the way that the ticket is not forged, but instead based on a legitimate one. The difference is in how the pack is modified. Remember, the pack is modified in the diamond ticket attack. Now, with the sapphire one, they're essentially requesting a valid pack using of another powerful user obtained through S4U to self plus a U2 trick. I'm not too familiar with this specific technique, but I can tell you S4U to self is used in constrained delegation. So maybe some additional research if you guys want to look into that. But essentially, they're gaining a legitimate pack and replacing that one with the one featured in the legitimate ticket. So they're picking different pieces or piecing together from all legitimate sources, piecing together their own malicious ticket essentially from all valid components. So that makes it even more stealthy. And as of this time, it's the most stealthy variant of the golden/silver ticket attacks that are known today. And the thing about this is it's so incredibly cutting edge is that there's no tool that can actually do this. If you click on Windows here, as of this time, no equivalent exists for the Windows systems. Even the Unix one, this one here is not actually merged into Impacket Ticketer. I actually looked both on Kali and on the GitHub page for the most recent release of Impacket Ticketer, and it does not have this impersonate flag in yet. So it's something kind of interesting. I'm sure if I dug deep enough, I could find some kind of POC tool out there. If you guys know any tools that will do the Sapphire ticket attack, let me know down in the comments section below. I'd be interested to see that, maybe check it out. But right now, there's no tools out there that's able to do that. So essentially, they did reference this one here. But from what I saw looking through the source code, if we go to impersonate, we don't see any hits. So I don't know that that has been integrated at all here. And even when I downloaded it from GitHub, it basically gave me an error saying there is no option impersonate. So I wasn't able to actually put together a demo for the Sapphire ticket attack, but yeah, that one is the most cutting edge, the most stealthy. That's how new some of this stuff is. So yeah, hopefully this is, shedding light on some new attacks, some new techniques, new tradecraft that you can apply to your own pen testing and red teaming. So let me know down in the description, what your go-to attacks are for domain persistence. I would really like to, I'd really be interested in hearing that. And if you want to learn some of this red team stuff, if it sounds super cool to you, super interesting, you want to go deeper into that, go ahead and send me a DM on my Instagram at Elevate Cyber with the word YouTube, and I will, get on a one-on-one call with you and we can talk through some of your goals and how we can really optimize you there on the path. So yeah, guys, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.